So welcome to the Scholar Dev Show. So today we having the Mr. Swami. He is a Microsoft MVP and the Solution Architect in MNC. Hi Swami, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Shailendra. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's really great to be connecting with the community via podcast. So thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm doing good. It was a long day, just wrapping up things. And then, yeah, it's good to be part of the show as well. It's a completely different thing to experience.
So Swami, let us know about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I'm based out of Bangalore to start with, right? And I'm married and I have got a couple of daughters. So your first one is 6 years and second one is 2 years. So they both keep me very much occupied outside of my work and other activities. Yeah, but to just give a bit of a background, I'm basically from Tamil Nadu. I was born and brought up in a small town in Tamil Nadu near Erode. And then I completed my schooling there and then did my college in Coimbatore. And as a campus recruit, I got placed in a company in Bangalore. So I was working for Target initially for about 8 years, completely into application development. I was working on .NET development primarily, .NET-based application development rather. I worked on WCF, WPF, REST APIs, and a lot of other things. And then I moved to another company, JCPenney, that's another US retailer, where I joined as a lead engineer working on building their next generation of POS systems. And from there, I moved to Merck. That's where I work as a solution architect currently. So in my current work experience, I'm focusing mostly on building cloud native applications on Azure. So we use a lot of Azure PaaS services and Azure Kubernetes service for hosting microservices, etc. I also kind of lead a DevOps team here to build and build the entire DevOps CI/CD pipelines and things like that. Yeah, so that's pretty much about the work experience and about myself. Yeah.
So you are doing a lot of things in Azure, am I right?
Yeah. As of now, yes, it's mostly on Azure. Yeah.
So how you got your first job? Let's say if somebody asking you how you started your IT career, what was your learning from your schooling days?
Okay. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing, right? So like I said, I was a campus recruit, so we had good campus recruitment in my college. But before even I came to know about the campus recruitment, I kind of got inclined towards learning something additional than my college stuff. So in my back then, I was like a 2008 pass out. Now it feels like almost 15 years, right? So back then we didn't have a lot of additional things to do. So we were taught about C, C++, Java in the college. Then I somehow got interest towards .NET, and then I kind of started learning by myself, joining an external institute. And
when you started learning the programming language, so can you let us know what was your approach for learning a programming language? Because many people, started to learn the programming language, but somehow they lose the interest, or somehow they don't know the way how the logic building they can build. There are a lot of changes that the people are having in the initial days of their career. So how you overcome those things?
Yeah. So now, to be honest, if you look at the current world, there are a number of opportunities and options for anyone to learn the programming language. Back then, it used to be only the documentation, what is coming out of the actual creators, right? For example, if it's a .NET, when I said I started learning about .NET, right? So back then, we used to have an MSDN library, MSDN as a CD compact disk. We used to put that and then read the documentation and do it, right? So yeah, just fast forward now, you've got a lot of options. But my advice would be to first go through the documentation and then go in a structured way. Start with the basics. Like if you talk about C# as a programming language, start with the basics of, okay, how do you construct a C# programming language? What are the basic constructs of it, right? Starting with the variables and the operators and things like that, right? Start slow and then start creating more practical examples, right? Start writing code. That's one way. And also, you cannot always think about all the scenarios and then write code by yourself. So also start reading code, right? So let's say if you want to talk about .NET, there is a lot of open source projects available. So just go read the code, how people are writing .NET code, and that also give you a good perspective of how to write better code, etc. Right? So read the documentation, read code, and write more code. That should be my 3-step advice to learn any new programming language.
So I was looking at your, the profile. So you started in your very early stage for the Microsoft certification. So how you get to know what are the benefits of doing the certification, how you get the awareness about it. Can you share some detail around it?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, back then when I was in college, I just wanted to do something different. And that's when I got to know about .NET that was launched maybe a few years back, right? And I started joining the course. And then in the training institute is when I got to know about the certifications. Then again, to stand out from the crowd, right? So you need to be doing different. That's when I thought, okay, it would be good to do a certification. And then just started learning about Microsoft ASP.NET back then. And then did a couple of certifications on that. Right. It definitely helps you to screen your resume, right? If you're looking at 10 people and if 5 of them have really done a certification, it means that something they are trying to do different outside of their regular stuffs, be it a college student or a working professional, right? It means they are trying to invest additional time in learning and getting a structured learning and then validating their learning by writing certifications. So in that sense, it's very important. Having said that, after I joined the IT industry, I've not been actively doing any certifications, because certification is just one aspect of it. What you do on the job and how you're able to apply your learning is what is more important. So yeah, it's always, you need to balance both the things. It's not like just getting certifications alone is not going to get you good jobs.
So you're saying, if let's say you're willing to make your resume outstanding, different from the others, you want to stand out. So of course the resume will help you as a fresher.
Correct.
Even I have seen in many companies when it is coming to the cloud solution architect, so company are expecting you should be the cloud certified. You have done the certification Azure. If they are hiring for your Azure consultant, you should do the certification in AWS if they are hiring for the AWS consultant. So of course, certification will help us. So this is a learning for the audience.
Yes. Of course, it does. Like I said, yeah, it is definitely needed, because it definitely stands you apart from others, right? Like I said, if you're screening a resume, if 5 people have done certifications, it's definitely a testament that they are making effort to learn in a structured fashion, and then they are validating that by getting a certificate. So yes, it does help. Yes.
So many students of our, even many people are willing to become a cloud solution architect or cloud consultant. So can you let us know what are the jobs and what are the roles and responsibilities a cloud solution architect have or a cloud developer is having, so that the audience having the understanding about the roles and responsibility?
Sure. Yeah. So cloud solution architect is definitely a fancy title to have, right?
Okay.
So yeah. So basically, you need to have a thorough understanding of the cloud, right? To understand what are the different offerings of the cloud, and then given a problem statement, you should be able to understand and apply what are the services that can be stitched together to come up with a solution, right? That's precisely what a cloud solution architect would do. It could be a business requirement on any level. Like if we are working on an infrastructure side, it could be like, for example, moving an Azure Active Directory, which is on-prem, to an Azure. That could be one of the requirements, right? If you're coming from the IT and admin side of it thing, or if you're on the app dev side of it, maybe you're having certain .NET applications running on premises. Now I want to migrate them into the cloud. I want to make it run them on the cloud, right? So if a high-level problem statement is given like that, you need to be now start breaking down into multiple aspects. And what are the infrastructure we need to consider, and do we need to worry about IaaS or PaaS or SaaS or FaaS or whatever different other things, right? So you should be able to understand these different offerings clearly and be able to make a choice on what is going to fit where. Right? That is what primarily about the cloud solution architecture is about. And also, of course, keeping the cost in mind.
The first responsibility the cloud solution architect having about the infrastructure. Let's say around the application, we have to decide what are the virtual machine we need to take. And if we having the existing application, what are the strategy in the planning? We need to moving the application from the on-prem environment to the cloud. This is the first responsibility, right?
Correct. See, it depends on multiple things. So if you're put into a migration related work, yes, you need to understand the entire infrastructure. If in case you are lucky to be working on a completely cloud native environment, then there are multiple cloud native offerings available. For example, in Azure, if you take a look at it, Azure App Services, there Azure Containers are there, Container Apps are there, n number of options are available. Right? You need to be able to pick and choose what is going to be fitting the right bill, basically. Right, understand them in clearly, and what are the security portions which each one can have, and how you can have a better cost optimized solution. That all of these things would come into picture. It's actually a vast territory to be in.
Okay. So you're saying it's about the decision making as well. You have to decide which services to use, and what is the best fit as per the requirement. So it's about the decision making as well.
Correct. One of the important things is about decision making, and then yes, operationalizing, and then monitoring and other things also comes into picture. Right. Let's say if I'm putting something out in the production, when something goes wrong, how am I able to really get the right alerts and monitors in place? Right. So it's end to end basically. Starting given a problem statement, how do you identify the right fitment of the cloud services and implement it, productionize it, and then have an end-to-end visibility of how everything works together. Right.
So you're saying first understand the requirement, what are the services are going to fit. Second is about implementation, and third is about what would say decision making.
Yeah. Yeah.
And fourth is about monitoring purpose. So you need to monitor things, how the application going well, and based upon the feedback, you need to improve it.
Yes, and also of course, cost is something which is something we cannot forget. Right, it's easy to put something up and running on the cloud, but you need to ensure how cost effective we are making it. Right, leverage the features like auto scaling, and when you want to have a downtime, etc., etc. Right, all those also needs to be factored in.
The costing play the major role as well, because if you're running the thing in the cloud, if you have not optimized the solution, of course the billing will be high.
Yes.
Even from the client perspective, client are very much concerned about the costing, how much they are paying, how we can reduce the cost. This is also the core responsibility I think we having for the solution architect.
Yes, absolutely.
So what is the suggestion you want to give to the audience if they're willing to become a solution architect? So what can be the path to become a solution architect in cloud?
Okay. Yeah, so first thing is, like I said, we need to have a base understanding of the entire cloud ecosystem, right? First thing is, before going to ecosystem, understand the cloud principles, right? Because irrespective of whether you are going to work on Azure or AWS or GCP, some of the cloud concepts are going to be the same. The underlying concepts are the same, right? So first, make yourself familiar with that, right? And then when we talk about infrastructure as a service or a platform as a service or software as a service, right? These kind of different concepts, be clear on those, so that given a problem statement, you'll be able to understand, okay, what fits in where. That is first part, right? And then start. I mean, of course, there are a lot of documentation also available from the Architecture Center. For example, I mostly refer Azure Architecture Center because I primarily work on Azure. So I go look at all the reference documentation and the reference implementation of a specific problem statement. Like, for example, if you are working on big data processing, or if you want to build a healthcare kind of a system, that how you can build those solutions on Azure. There are quite a lot of Azure Architecture documentation available. I'm sure the same will be available across other clouds as well, right? So understand that will give you a good perspective of how different services can be stitched together, right? And then comes you are on the job learning, right? So because documentation is one part, but then once you start working on it is when you get the actual learning.
You highlighted 3 points so far. One is a cloud principle. Second thing is the architecture understanding, and the third thing is about the documentation.
Correct. Yeah.
Any other point you want to add?
Yeah, what I wanted to add is, and if you are currently a developer and want to move towards solution architect, again, you can also go for the certification that will help you to channelize your learning. Right? What are the different areas you need to cover? Because when you talk about architect, it's not only about application development. Right? Typically, when you're working on application development, it's more like a high-level design is what you would do. Given a problem statement, you need to decide, okay, whether I want to use, maybe if I can go to program level, whether to use a linked list or a queue or a stack or those kind of things is what you will definitely look at, right? But when it comes into architecture, it's beyond that. You need to have a higher level picture of all the things, the entire ecosystem and how it's going to stand together, right? So you need to understand your infrastructure concepts, your networking concepts, and then your security aspects. That all of these things also need to be learned along with your actual application development.
And what of the certification side? Do you think that the people should go for the certification as well? If let's say they're Azure, they should go for the Azure Solution Architect. In AWS, they should go for the AWS Solution Architect. What about the certification side? Whether they should go ahead or not?
Yes, like I said, yeah, it will help you to have a structured learning, because as I called out, you can become a solution architect if you're coming from an administration side, an IT admin side, or also from an application development side, right? So both of these guys were never talking to each other earlier, right? IT will always go and work on infrastructure side, and app dev will always work on the app dev side, right? But now when it comes to the cloud solution architect, you need to have the knowledge of both the sides. Like when I say, okay, I want to auto scale my application, you need to know, okay, on what basis your app is going to be auto scale, and when the auto scaling happens, how is your application design going to handle it, right? So you need to have an understanding of both of it. So that is where the certification would help, right? It will bridge the gap, and then it will help you to understand the concepts in a structured fashion.
So you're saying to be a solution architect should be good in the infra side as well, should be good in the development side as well, in the planning side as well. So of course you have to look for the both side. Not only should be good in the development side, it should be good in the infrastructure side as well.
Correct. Yeah. So
And for the audience, I will add one more point here. If let's say you are going to validate the things, of course, certification is a must thing because many client having a client interview round, they ask the person who's going to work on a project must be Microsoft certified, must be AWS certified. So this is the way to validate your skill set as well.
Yeah.
So Swami is also saying the same thing. So you should be the certified as well, so that you can validate your skill set.
That will definitely be a good entry point for you to get towards the cloud solution architecture, right? And then, like I said, certification is just one part. Other part is also showing the skills what you acquired as part of the learning, and then continue progressing on that.
So when you started the speaking journey, I have seen you started your speaking in very early stage. So what do you experience from the speaking?
Yeah, so basically I started being part of the community since 2010. So I was fortunate to have a good colleague of mine who introduced me to the communities in Bangalore. So there was a community called B.NET, Bangalore.NET user group. So I used to go and attend these events to see, okay, how people are really, using a technology to solve the problems. Because if you are working in a company or in an organization, you will be more focused on your own set of problem statements, right? You will be maybe if you're in a specific domain, for example, retail or logistics, you'll think about only those kind of problem statements. You don't really on a day-to-day basis get to think about other things, right? That's when I felt the communities were giving those different perspectives. That's how I started being part of this community since 2010. Almost I was the regular attendee for these weekend meetups, and I found that they were giving good knowledge. I was able to increase my knowledge by attending these events. And one fine day in 2015 is when I thought, okay, maybe I should also start sharing my knowledge. And of course, the first thing is everyone will get a doubt is that do I have that knowledge to basically go and share to others? That am I equipped enough, or do we have that expertise, right? They'll always be there. Believe me, even now it's around 7-8 years I've been doing this, and every single time I propose a talk, I have that question: do I know this topic well, right? So don't worry about that. Don't get bogged down with that. Just go ahead and get started. Because as they say, if you are learning by yourself, you will learn only so much. But if you have to teach somebody else, your learning itself will completely become better. Right? Because you need to think about a lot of different scenarios and different perspectives and what kind of questions different people would ask on a specific topic. And some of these things kept me going, and that's how I kind of continued to do a public speaking for almost 7-8 years now.
So you are saying here, if you will join the meetups and the conferences, so ultimately it is helping us to understand the various people. You having a chance to do the networking, you having a chance to learn the various skill set. And of course, it is just like we have trailer of a movie. Until you will not watch a trailer of a movie, how will go for watching that movie? So meetups are, I feel, similar to that way.
Yes.
Until we will not look at the trailer of a technology, how we will understand this is good for me or not, how we will decide. Even the people share their experience as well. So you are not learning only from experience, you are learning from the experience of others people as well.
Exactly.
And as you said, when you started the speaking, in case of, it is not necessary you should be an expert in the particular topic in the particular technology. If let's say you know the things well, you are working on that particular technology, so you can share your experience. Because meetups is all about doing some discussion, sharing your experience with others, learning from another experience. So this is the way how the people are sharing the things, how the people are doing the networking. So this is to the audience here. So I request everyone, please join the meetups. If you are in the Bangalore, join the meetups in the Bangalore user group. If you are in Delhi NCR, join the meetups in Delhi NCR as well.
Yeah. Meetups are a great avenue to network and learn a lot of things. I personally learned a lot from these. Yeah, and I continue doing so.
So when you got your first Microsoft MVP?
So it was in 2016 is when I got. So like I said, 2015 is when I started speaking, and then I started also my own blog to start sharing the knowledge what I had, right? And then by 2016 is when first time I got, and then I've been fortunate to be renewed every year. So yeah.
I also got in 2016, first time Microsoft VP.
Yeah. we belong to the same batch.
We are in the same batch.
Yeah.
So what is your plan now? So how you want to see the community now, how the speaking, I have seen you did the speaking in many conferences, let's say as your conference, you did the speaking, you also active in your local meetups, you are keep sharing the things. So, so what is your experience with the people who are, especially the student, I'm asking from the student perspective. So what is the suggestion you want to give to the student, how they can decide their career? Because nowadays we having a lot of career opportunities. So sometimes the student become confused whether they should learn Java, whether they should learn .NET, whether they should learn machine learning and AI, whether they should learn Azure, whether they should learn full stack and .NET. What is the suggestion you want to give to those students especially?
Yeah, so this is a common question which I've been getting every time I go on a meetup, because as you rightly called out, there are a number of options available now, and it's definitely daunting to choose one of them, right? So my first and foremost advice would be to get the basics right and get the foundations right? Irrespective of whether you're going to learn any programming language, all of your operating OOPS concepts and the OS concepts and data structures, algorithms, if you are strong in it, you can very well pick up any programming language, because those are like cherry on top of the cake, right? If your foundation is strong, you can build anything on top of it, right? That's from programming language perspective. And from the choice of roles, whether it is a full stack developer or AI ML engineer or data engineers, etc., please don't get fancified by the titles and the industry things, right? Again, I will stick to your basics and then look at, think and understand what's your interest. Are you interested in building a beautiful UI applications? Then you can be a good mobile app developer. Are you interested in working with the data? Then you can look at going into data engineering. Or are you look at building nice backend APIs or things like that, right? It's something you want to build a big solution kind of a thing. Then you can become like a full stack engineer, right? So I understand it's also a bit difficult to get to that level of maturity and then understand what our interests are, and it is easy to get carried away by the industry things, like whether everyone is an AML engineer, so you want to become an AML engineer, but please don't get into that fallacy, right? Take a pass and like I said, see if you have built your foundation correctly, right, and then start building on top of it, right?
So I'm saying if you are willing to decide a career, so of course first you should be good in the foundation skill set.
Yes.
But I believe here if you are logically good. So when it is coming the logic building, so data structure, of course, you should know the data structure well way. So explore the arrays, explore the stack, queue, be good in the problem solving skill set. Because this skill set definitely will help you whenever you having any analysis around a project, when you have to do the creative things inside a project. Because every time is not the case, you are getting the solution from the internet. Even nowadays, we have in the chat GPT where you are asking the things and the chat GPT is giving the answer. But to understand that answer, you should be logically good. Then only you can understand it. And of course, sometimes it happens we are picking up a particular field, but when we start working, then we will get to know this is not a field for me. I'm good in the, let's say, back end side, I'm good in the front end side. So until and unless you will not explore that field, you will not figure out what is for me, what is not for me. That is also the things. So start exploring, start doing the things, then you will going to decide which one is best fit for you. But ultimately, foundation is a very first thing that everyone should prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should always remember that our career is in our hands, right? So we can always course correct it if we think what we are doing is not really inclined to our interest or passion. It's always in our hands to really change course and then get it corrected.
Even it's not the case, whatever the other field you started initially, that would be the only the field always. In between, you can change it. Let's say initially you might be started with your front end developer. Later on, you can become the full stack developer as well. If let's say initially you started with the full stack developer, you can become the cloud solution architect as Swami is today. Later on, you can become the some other role as well. So it's not the case. You are going to be work on the same role. So role can keep changing. So usually, how you share your knowledge with others in the form of articles, in the form of the conferences. how share the knowledge with others?
I've tried almost all the avenues. So when I started answering questions in Stack Overflow, and then I created my own blog, and I was writing blog till 2020-ish or so. And then during the pandemic, I also started my own YouTube channel, right? And of course, public speaking in meetups and other things is which I'm continuously doing. So as we speak now, mostly I am focusing towards speaking because that's something I felt I am more interested and then I'm more passionate about, right? So I do attend meetups. I do submit CFS for the events that are happening in and around Bangalore. It's mostly around talks now. Yeah. But again, like I said, I also keep experimenting different avenues to see what works and what doesn't work. And then whichever now I feel speaking is working out, so I'm continuing that. Yeah.
So what do you think how the ChatGPT and other AI will impact the job of a developer? Do you think they will impact the things? I'm sure this question many people might be asking nowadays.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's also a very typical question, a very contemporary question now, right? Because ChatGPT is in the talks everywhere, right? Yeah. So definitely, it is going to help in a few ways, right? For automating the mundane job, or getting better transcripts for some of the things what we want to do, right? For example, if you want to beautify certain statements and things, so you can definitely take help from ChatGPT and then get those things done, right? But in my personal view, there is always there is a need for a manual intervention to understand and differentiate whether the outcomes are really appropriate or not, right? You cannot just simply copy paste. Right? Because as a developer, we have all been doing copy paste and Stack Overflow, and we know that it doesn't really fit in directly into our application, right? You still need to make some changes to adapt it to the way how we want to use it, right? It still applies there as well, right? It just gives you a nice indication about how things could be, but it's up to human intelligence to really differentiate what is right and what is wrong, and then use it, right? And also like I said, it cannot be used across all the streams and all the avenues. There are definitely certain areas where human intuition intelligence is needed. So in my view, I don't think it's going to replace any jobs, but it is definitely is going to be a good assistant for any of the jobs what we are doing, right? If, for example, one of the examples I could think of is if you want to learn some new language, right? For example, if you are a .NET C# developer and you want to learn Python, you can just go ahead and say, how do I write a Fibonacci series in Python? It's going to give you a code, and then you can understand it, and then you can read through it, and then you can see how you can learn it better. Right? So those kind of good uses, you can definitely make use of it. Instead of hunting for a lot of documentations, you can ask questions, and then it is going to give you the right answers. Or rather, immediately you'll get an answer, and then you can understand it. Understand the actual concepts from there, right? Yeah, so it is up to us to consciously use it and use it in the right way, right? Yeah, so ChatGPT we have to use consciously, and I'm sure it is not going to replace any of the jobs. It is definitely going to be a good assistant for the jobs what we are doing. That's what I would say. That's what my take is.
But I feel one more thing over here. If you're coming to the the roles in the tech industry, so we having the level 1 role, level 2 role, level 3 role. So if you're looking at here, the ChatGPT is still level 1, where the people are, let's say, designing some login page, designing some, let's say, sign up page. They need to write a program to, let's say, calculate the, let's say, factorial of a number, doing something else. So these basic level things ChatGPT is doing well. Even if you are looking for writing an email for your client, a cold email you might be writing a email for the resignation as well. So that ChatGPT immediately will give you the way how you can write effective email. Even in many cases as well, if let's say you are looking for some articles, especially if let's say I need to implement some best practices into my project, into my the code. So I can quickly ask for the ChatGPT what are the, let's say, best practices in ASP.NET Core, in Angular, in, let's say, AWS, in Azure. ChatGPT will let you know what are the best practices you can implement. But ultimately, implement those best practices, a person needed. ChatGPT can do that. Ultimately, your productivity is now improved. Let's say what are the time you're putting for doing the that R&D that now has been reduced. So ultimately, what I feel, ChatGPT is just like your personal assistant.
Yeah,
right. To add a personal assistant, you having a PA with you. Just ask whenever you are studying somewhere, he will definitely be there.
Yeah, right. So because the contextual knowledge is still sitting with the human who understand the entire ecosystem and then who can make the right judgment. right? It just gives some the high level learning of what it has done, the historical data, what it has, right? So it's up to us to fit in the entire result into context.
One more impact, what I feel that now the developer will have, now the company are willing to hire the people who are good in the technology. Nobody asks now, now the company are not interested to hire the people who just know the basics, who just know the, the fundamental. The company need the people who are now expert, who actually know how to build the things end to end. Because the basic thing that ChatGPT now easily can generate for them. So why they will hire the people for doing those basic things? Now they need the smart people who can use the ChatGPT to do the task, whatever they will do in 2 days, they can now do in 1 day, they can do in few days. So such smart people, such the skill team, I will say the companies are now looking to have.
Yeah, right.
So final thought, what the message you want to give to the audience?
Yeah, I mean, to conclude, yeah, I would say for students especially, please focus on the fundamentals and then don't get carried away by the industry buzz, what's happening, because the buzz will keep changing every year. Last year you might have heard something else, and this year is all about ChatGPT, and something else will come up next year. But what is going to remain the constant is going to be your fundamentals on data structures, algorithms, networking concepts, your computer science concepts, etc. So please focus on that, right? And of course, we have a lot of avenues now to learn. Be it free videos from the YouTubes or from the documentations from the actual creators of the software, etc. So please go through them. And yes, GitHub is another immense source of information for you. Also, take a look at different code and start being active contributor for the open source projects if you're able to. That will also give you a good perspective of software engineering and development aspects and software development practices, etc. Right. And for the industry experienced people, I would recommend you all be part of community activities. I've personally got a lot of how to say, I'm running short of word to fill that in, a lot of personal benefits, if I can use that way, right? It
When you are
improved my
learning the
knowledge.
things along with the people, you are sharing the things as well. You are having very good networking. I think you are
Yeah.
very successful.
Yeah,
Yep.
so the networking is definitely important in the industry, right? So you get access to a lot of good people, good knowledgeous people. You can exchange your ideas. You can reach out for help whenever you are stuck, etc. Right? So your horizon will definitely expand if you start being part of the communities, right? So I recommend you all to be part of communities, and of course there are also more. There's always a need for new and young and new people to come forward and then share their knowledge, right? So being part of community and being listener is one part, and coming out to the stage and then being a speaker is another. So I recommend you all to also start becoming speaker. You can definitely see a difference. And I can, if I look back myself 7 years back and between now and then, I can see a great deal of difference in the way I approach a problem and the way I kind of communicate and the way I kind of share the knowledge with others. There's definitely a good amount of improvements I can see personally. That's my personal recommendation. So be part of community initiatives, and then you can definitely see for yourself.
Even one more point I want to add to the Swami point. Many people having a common things. Let's say they having a things they don't have when it is coming to learning a technology. What I feel it's come when you having a environment. There is even a golden statement: if you want to be rich, please be a part of the rich people. One day you will become the rich. If you want to be, let's say, fit,
Yeah.
be a, be a part of the fit people. Automatically, you start thinking in that way. You start doing the exercise. You start having a good diet plan. Same way, until you will not be a part of the people who like to share the knowledge, who actually willing to explore the new technology, you will not get that passion. You will not get that seed. So you just make that network that definitely will help you in future to explore the new technology. As Swami said, if you're sticking somewhere, so people are there to help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so thank you, Swami, for coming on this show. You share many valuable inputs from your journey. I hope, especially the students and the experienced one, will have a better understanding how they can become a cloud architect and how they can start their career. So thank you for coming on the show.
Pleasure is mine, Shailendra. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.